Just in, Princess Leonor's Constitution Oath explained, emotional reflection today. You've seen the footage. A young princess. A formal chamber. A simple oath. But here's the truth. That moment wasn't about loyalty. It wasn't even about the Constitution. It was about loss, pressure, and a future she didn't choose, but accepted anyway. Stay with me, because what Princess Leonor gave up that day. Most people still haven't noticed. The room was silent in the way only history can demand. Red carpets, dark wood, centuries of expectation pressing down on one young woman's shoulders. Princess Leonor stood straight, calm, composed, but beneath that calm, there was weight. Because this wasn't just a ceremony. This wasn't tradition for tradition's sake. This was a line being crossed, one you can never step back over. When Leonor raised her hand and swore loyalty to the Spanish Constitution, she wasn't just affirming law. She was closing a door behind her. And the question nobody asked out loud was simple. What does it cost a daughter to become a future queen? Spain has seen oaths before. Kings, princes, heirs. But Leonor's oath landed differently. Because Spain is different now. A younger generation questions monarchy itself. A country still healing from political fractures. A royal family that knows trust can be lost, and must be earned back. Leonor wasn't stepping into stability. She was stepping into scrutiny. Every word she spoke carried not just legal meaning, but emotional symbolism. She pledged herself to a system that had already failed, survived, and transformed. And by doing so, she made herself answerable, not protected. So ask yourself, was this oath about power? Or accountability? King Felipe VI sat nearby. A king, a father, and in that moment, those roles collided. Because he had stood in her place once. He knew exactly what that oath takes from you. He knew the loneliness that comes after. The discipline, the silence, the loss of normal life, forever. And as Leonor spoke, something unspoken passed between them. Not pride, not fear, recognition. A father watching his daughter inherit a burden he can never lift from her shoulders. And for the first time, Spain wasn't just watching a future queen. They were watching a family moment. Quiet, restrained, and painfully human. Look again at that day. Notice what wasn't there. No spontaneity, no warmth, no youthful freedom. Everything was measured, controlled. That absence matters, because monarchy isn't only about what is shown, it's about what is withheld. Leonor didn't smile much, and that wasn't nerves, that was understanding. Understanding that from this moment on, joy would be private, and duty would be public. And here's the uncomfortable truth. That oath didn't make her powerful. It made her visible. We often forget how young she was. A teenager standing in front of a nation. Expected to represent continuity, stability, and hope. Before she'd even had time to fully discover herself. No rebellion, no hesitation, just resolve. And that's what made the moment so unsettling. Because it raises a question we don't like to ask. Is strength always a choice, or sometimes a necessity? Leonor didn't swear because she wanted applause. She swore because the institution required it. And yet, she did it with dignity. Not defiance, not arrogance, but quiet acceptance. Time changes perspective. 2 years later, Spain sees her differently. More mature, more disciplined, more distant. Military training, public restraint. A life increasingly defined by preparation. And suddenly, that oath feels less ceremonial. And more prophetic. Because everything since has followed its logic. The Constitution didn't just shape her role. It shaped her life, her schedule, her body, her voice. And now, looking back, we understand. That oath wasn't the beginning of her reign. It was the end of her childhood. Royal life promises prestige, but it demands something far more valuable in return. Privacy, freedom, romantic choice. Leonor's oath didn't say the word, love. But love was everywhere in that room. A mother holding back emotion. A father holding onto composure. A nation projecting hope onto a young woman's future. And the quiet question lingers. Who does she get to be, when no one is watching? Because queens are remembered for crowns. But daughters are shaped by sacrifices no one ever sees. This wasn't a performance for tradition. It was a message. To critics. To supporters. To skeptics. Princess Leonor wasn't asking for loyalty. She was offering responsibility. And that changes the entire meaning of monarchy in modern Spain. Not inherited authority, but inherited obligation. And perhaps that's why this oath still resonates. Because it didn't promise perfection. It promised service. 2 years later, the footage feels heavier. Not because of what she said, but because of what we now understand. That this wasn't a moment frozen in time. It was a turning point. A young woman stepping into history, not as a symbol, but as a participant. And maybe that's why people still talk about it. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. Princess Leonor didn't swear an oath to be admired. She swore it to be accountable. And in doing so, she showed Spain something rare. Quiet courage. Not the kind that shouts. Not the kind that demands applause. But the kind that stands still. And accepts the weight of tomorrow. That is why her Constitution oath still matters today. And that is why, long after the words fade, the meaning remains. If you want, I can now rewrite this into part 1 of a multi-episode series.